You know what they say about Monday mornings in space. They're exactly as terrible as Monday mornings on Earth, except with more existential dread and worse coffee. I'm Jake Morrison, xenobiologist extraordinaire, which is a fancy way of saying I catalogue alien mold for a living on research station Kepler-7. Glamorous, right? I was in the middle of my 47th sample of what I like to call space moss that probably wants to kill you when the proximity alarms started screaming. Not the gentle, hey, there's a meteor beeping, but the full-blown something massive just violated our airspace, shrieking that makes your teeth hurt. Commander Fink's voice crackled over the intercom, dripping with his usual pompous authority. All personnel to stations. We have detected a large alien vessel in distress. Repeat, alien vessel in distress. Large alien vessel. In distress. On a Tuesday. Because apparently the universe has a sense of humor and it's terrible. I grabbed my emergency kit, which mostly consisted of a universal translator that worked about as well as a chocolate teapot, some basic medical supplies, and a really good flask of whiskey. Hey, don't judge. You try making first contact sober. The crash site was about 3 clicks from the station, and as our shuttle approached, I got my first look at the vessel. It wasn't a ship so much as it was a work of art that someone had decided to fly through space. Crystalline structures twisted and curved in impossible ways, like someone had convinced a rainbow to become architecture. Beautiful, sure, but also very, very broken. The hull was cracked in dozens of places, leaking what looked like liquid starlight. Whatever was inside, it was dying fast. Biosigns are fading, announced our pilot, a perpetually nervous woman named Lieutenant Torres, who had the unfortunate habit of stating the obvious. Whatever's in there won't last long. I suited up and approached the largest breach in the hull. The interior was filled with a soft, pulsing light that seemed to respond to my presence. And that's when I saw her. She was roughly 30 feet long, covered in scales that shifted between deep purple and silver like living metal. Her head was elegant, almost serpentine, with eyes the size of dinner plates that glowed with an inner fire. She was, without a doubt, the most beautiful creature I had ever seen. She was also clearly dying. Her breathing was labored, her scales were dulling, and that inner light was flickering like a candle in a hurricane. Great. Just great. My first contact with an alien species, and I was about to watch her die. Well, I muttered, setting down my equipment. This is either going to be the most important moment in human history, or the most embarrassing way to start an intergalactic incident. The dragon's eyes fixed on me, and I swear I saw intelligence there. Ancient, weary intelligence. She tried to lift her head, failed, and let out a sound that was part whistle, part musical note, and entirely heartbreaking. Yeah, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. I know exactly how you feel. The universal translator kicked in with its usual helpful commentary. Greetings, small bipedal creature. I am Zarathes High Nox, third princess of the Draconic Consortium, keeper of the celestial flames, and heir to the Crimson Throne. I require immediate assistance in accordance with the Galactic Accords of Dignified Species. I blinked. Okay, that's a mouthful. I'm Jake. I catalogue space mold. Nice to meet you. Zara's massive head tilted slightly, and I could practically see the confusion in her eyes. You catalogue space mold? Yeah, it's exactly as exciting as it sounds. Look, Your Majesty, I'm going to level with you. I have no idea what the Galactic Accords of Dignified Species are, but I'm guessing they involve a lot of bowing and formal language, and frankly, I'm terrible at both. Before she could respond, the cavalry arrived. Commander Fink burst through the breach with his usual dramatic flair, followed by our entire diplomatic team. All 3 of them. Stand aside, Morrison. Fink commanded, adjusting his uniform like he was about to meet the Queen. This requires proper protocol. He approached Zara with all the dignity of a man who had practiced this moment in the mirror. Greetings, noble creature of the stars. I am Commander Reginald Fink, official representative of the human species and keeper of diplomatic relations. We welcome you to our humble system and offer our assistance in your time of need. Zara's response was to close her eyes and let out a sound that was definitely not happy. Her scales dimmed noticeably. Commander, I said, watching her vital signs on my scanner, I think you're making her worse. Nonsense. Fink proclaimed. This is standard first contact protocol. Chapter 7, Section 2 of the Diplomatic Handbook clearly states. Yeah, about that, I interrupted, pointing at my scanner. Her biorhythms just crashed. Whatever you're doing, it's literally killing her. Fink's face turned an impressive shade of purple. Morrison, you are completely out of line. This is a matter of utmost diplomatic importance. While Fink continued his tirade, I noticed something interesting when he was talking. Zara's readings dropped. When I was talking, they stabilized. When I was complaining about Fink, they actually improved. Hey, Zara, I said, ignoring Fink's continued protests. Want to hear about the time Commander Fink tried to negotiate with a coffee machine? Her eyes opened, and I swear I saw the hint of a smile on her massive face. It was last month, I continued, warming to my theme. The machine was broken, right? Instead of just hitting it like a normal person, Fink decided to file a formal complaint with the manufacturer. 3 pages, single-spaced, about the gross negligence in beverage distribution systems. The machine was unplugged. Zara made a sound that was definitely laughter. Her scales brightened. Morrison, Fink shouted. This is highly inappropriate. Actually, I said, watching Zara's vital signs continue to improve, I think this is exactly what she needs. She's been stuck in formal mode so long. She's forgotten how to have a normal conversation. Zara's voice came through the translator, stronger now. Your coffee machine required formal documentation? According to Fink, everything requires formal documentation. Last week, he filed a report about the improper storage of paperclips. Paperclips. Zara. He wrote 4 paragraphs about the strategic importance of organized office supplies. She laughed again. A sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. I believe I am beginning to understand human culture. Trust me, I said. None of us understand human culture. That's what makes it interesting. Over the next few hours, while Fink argued with headquarters about proper protocol, I learned something fascinating about Zara's species. They were empathic energy feeders, but not in the creepy vampire way. They absorbed emotional resonance from other beings. The problem was, they had been getting the equivalent of fast food for centuries. Formal interactions, Zara explained, her voice growing stronger with each passing hour, provide what you might call empty calories. They sustain us, but they do not nourish us, and real emotions. I asked, adjusting her makeshift life support system. Like the finest delicacy, your genuine frustration with your superior, your casual disregard for my titles, your authentic concern for my well-being without expectation of reward. It is the most satisfying meal I have had in decades. I sat back on my heels. So you're telling me that my complete inability to follow social norms is actually keeping you alive? Precisely. My mother always said my sarcasm would get me in trouble. Turns out it might save the galaxy. Zara's laugh was getting stronger. Tell me more about your mother. Oh, she's a piece of work. Calls me every week to ask when I'm going to get a real job. Apparently, preventing interspecies conflicts doesn't count because it's not on Earth. She wanted me to be an accountant. What is an accountant? Someone who makes my job look exciting. They sit in small rooms and argue with numbers all day. My mom thinks this is more respectable than discovering new forms of life. Your species is remarkably strange. You have no idea. We're the only species that invented reality television and somehow convinced ourselves it was entertainment. We pay money to watch other people argue about things that don't matter. It's like we're addicted to artificial drama. Zara's scales were now a brilliant silver purple, and her eyes were bright with interest. Tell me about this reality television. Oh, where do I start? There's a show where people compete to marry someone they've never met. Another where they live in a house and vote each other out for money. My personal favorite is one where they follow rich people around and film them buying things they don't need. And humans find this entertaining? Apparently. I think it makes us feel better about our own dysfunction. Like, sure, my life is a mess, but at least I'm not crying on television because someone ate my sandwich. Just then, Fink returned with a stack of forms. Listen, step away from the alien dignitary. I have the proper documentation for a formal first contact ceremony. Zara's readings immediately started dropping again. Commander, I said, with all due respect, your formal documentation is literally killing her. Impossible. These forms have been approved by the Interspecies Relations Committee. Yeah, well, the Interspecies Relations Committee never met a dragon who feeds off genuine emotion. Your bureaucracy is like feeding her cardboard. Fink's face was approaching critical purple levels. These are time-tested diplomatic protocols. Tested on whom? I shot back. Because I'm pretty sure they've never dealt with a species that can literally die from boredom. Zara weakly lifted her head. The small argumentative human speaks truth. Your formal protocols are unpleasant. See? I said. Even dying space royalty thinks your paperwork sucks. Morrison, you are relieved of duty. Fine by me. I'll be in my quarters, not killing anyone with proper procedure. As I walked away, I heard Zara call out, Jake Morrison, who catalogs space mold, please do not leave me with the forms. I grinned. Don't worry, Your Majesty, I'll be back. Someone has to keep you entertained. 3 days later, the situation went from bad to catastrophically worse. Zara's people showed up. I was sneaking back to the crash site with a thermos of coffee and a collection of human movies on my tablet when the sky lit up like someone had strung Christmas lights across the galaxy. 12 massive vessels dropped out of hyperspace, each one the size of a small moon and twice as intimidating. The lead ship's communication system crackled to life, and a voice that sounded like controlled thunder filled the air. Attention, human settlement. We are the Draconic Consortium fleet. Return our princess immediately or face obliteration. Commander Fink practically vibrated with excitement. This is it, Morrison. This is our chance to establish formal diplomatic relations with a major galactic power. Yeah, I said, watching the massive weapons systems charging up on the alien ships, or it's our chance to be turned into space dust. Probably the second thing. Fink ignored me, already adjusting his dress uniform. To prepare the formal greeting ceremony, full diplomatic honors. Meanwhile, I slipped away to check on Zara. She was conscious but weak, her scales a dull grey-green that screamed not doing well. Your family's here, I told her. She closed her eyes. I know. I can feel their displeasure. Displeasure? They're threatening to blow up the planet. Standard procedure, when a member of the royal family is in danger. Very formal. Very proper. She sounded utterly exhausted. Let me guess, I said, settling beside her massive head. They're going to want to talk about honor and dignity and proper protocols. For hours. Days if necessary. They will dissect every moment of my captivity, analyze every breach of protocol, and assign blame according to the ancient codes. And meanwhile, you'll be stuck listening to formal speeches while slowly dying of boredom. Precisely. I pulled out my tablet. Want to watch a movie instead? I brought The Princess Bride. It's about a princess who gets kidnapped, but it's actually funny. Her eyes brightened slightly. That sounds refreshing. We were halfway through the sword fight scene when Fink's voice boomed across the settlement. Citizens of the Draconic Consortium. I am Commander Reginald Fink, duly appointed representative of the human species. I welcome you to our system and assure you that your princess has been treated with the utmost respect and dignity according to all relevant protocols. Zara winced. He is speaking to High Commander Vex Taroth. This will not end well. The Dragon Commander's response was swift and ominous. Human Fink, you will present our princess immediately for inspection. Any deviation from proper protocol will be considered an act of war. Of course, Fink replied cheerfully. I shall prepare the formal presentation ceremony at once. I looked at Zara. How long do formal presentation ceremonies usually take? Approximately 6 hours. And how long do you think you'll last? She was quiet for a long moment. Perhaps 2. Right, I said, standing up. Time for Plan B. What is Plan B? I grinned. I'm going to save the galaxy by being incredibly rude to some very important people. Jake Morrison, who catalogues space mold, Zara said weakly, I believe you may be the most dangerous human in existence. Lady, you have no idea. The formal presentation ceremony was held in the settlement's main hall, which had been decorated with every piece of fawn or bunting Fink could find. The result looked like a diplomatic gift shop had exploded. High Commander Vex Taroth materialized via hologram, and I immediately understood why Zara was so exhausted by her own people. He was magnificent, terrifying, and completely humorless. His scales were deep red gold, his eyes burned like stars, and when he spoke, it was with the weight of absolute authority. Princess Zara Theshai Nox, he intoned, you will explain your presence among these creatures. Zara, who had been carried in on a medical stretcher, tried to sit up. Honored Commander, I was pursuing research into. You will speak when given permission. He cut her off. Human Fink, present your account of events. Fink stepped forward, practically glowing with importance. Your Excellence, it is my honor to report that Princess Zara has been treated with all due respect and according to the highest diplomatic standards. We have followed every protocol to the letter, ensuring that. I couldn't take it anymore. Oh, for crying out loud, I interrupted, stepping into the middle of the ceremony. You're all going to bore her to death. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear the air recycling systems humming. Excuse me? High Commander Vex Taroth's voice could have frozen helium. You heard me, I said, walking over to Zara's stretcher. Look at her. Really look. She's dying, and it's not from her injuries. It's from being treated like a diplomatic chess piece instead of a person. Human, the commander said, his voice deadly quiet. You dare to instruct the Draconic Consortium on the proper treatment of our own princess? Yeah, actually I do. I knelt beside Zara's stretcher, because in the last 3 days I've watched her get stronger every time someone treats her like a friend and weaker every time someone treats her like a title. The proper protocols exist for a reason. Do they? I stood up, looking directly at the hologram. Because from where I'm standing, your proper protocols are killing her. The hall erupted in chaos. Fink was stammering apologies. His diplomatic team was frantically shuffling papers, and I'm pretty sure Lieutenant Torres was having a panic attack in the corner. But High Commander Vex Taroth was silent, his burning eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. You believe, he said slowly, that our ancient traditions are inadequate. I believe, I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded, that your ancient traditions are going to kill the person you're trying to protect. Jake, Zara whispered from her stretcher, please don't. No, I said, not taking my eyes off the commander. Someone needs to say this. I took a deep breath. Your Highness, or Excellence, or whatever you want to be called. I've spent 3 days with your princess. Not Princess Zara Theshai Nox, third of her name, keeper of whatever. Just Zara. And you know what I learned? The commander's silence was terrifying, but I pressed on. She's brilliant. She's funny. She's curious about everything, and she asks questions that make you think. She worries about her people, she's frustrated with bureaucracy, and she has opinions about coffee that would make a barista weep. She's a person, not a diplomatic asset. You dare to speak of our princess so casually? I dare to speak of my friend honestly. I gestured towards Zara. Look at her vitals, look at her scales. When I talk to her like she's a person, she gets stronger. When you talk to her like she's a role to play, she fades. Your own people are literally boring her to death. Commander Vex Taroth was quiet for a long moment. Our ways have served us for millennia. Yeah, well, your ways suck, I said bluntly. You've turned conversation into performance art, and it's killing you, all of you. When's the last time you had a real conversation? When's the last time someone disagreed with you just because they felt like it? When's the last time you laughed at something stupid? Such things are beneath us. No, they're not. They're what make life worth living. You want to know what humans are really good at? We're good at being messy. We're good at arguing about nothing. We're good at making friends with people who are completely different from us, and we're really good at complaining about everything. I walked closer to the hologram projector. Your princess needs that. She needs someone to complain to her about the terrible food in the cafeteria. She needs someone to argue with her about movies. She needs someone to treat her like a friend instead of a crown jewel. And you propose what exactly? Cultural exchange, I said. Send some of your people to live with humans for a while. Learn how to be genuine. Learn how to be real. Learn how to have a conversation without a committee approving your talking points first. Zara's voice came from the stretcher, stronger than it had been in days. Commander Vextaroth, I support this proposal. The great dragon's head turned toward her. Princess? Jake Morrison, who catalogues space mold, speaks truth. I have felt more alive in these 3 days than I have in decades. Not because of medical treatment, but because someone spoke to me like an equal and like a friend. But the protocols are suffocating us, Zara said, struggling to sit up. We have become so formal, so proper, so dignified, that we have forgotten how to live, how to connect, how to truly communicate. She looked at me with those brilliant eyes. Humans are chaotic, illogical, and completely unpredictable. They argue about everything, they complain constantly, and they have no respect for proper authority. It is exactly what we need. High Commander Vextaroth was quiet for a very long time. Finally he spoke. You would have us learn to complain? Among other things, I said. Look, your commanderness, I'm not saying abandon all your traditions. I'm saying maybe add some new ones, like casual Fridays, or movie nights, or the ancient human art of arguing about sports. What are sports? Competitive games where people get unreasonably emotional about the outcome. We've been known to riot when our team loses. You riot over games? Oh yeah. It's great. Very therapeutic. It builds character. For the first time since the conversation began, I thought I saw a hint of curiosity in the commander's eyes. And this helps you? Absolutely. Nothing brings people together like a good argument about whether the referee made a bad call. Zara laughed, the sound ringing through the hall like music. Commander, I believe we have much to learn from our new allies. The commander looked at her, then at me, then back at her. Princess, you are better. I am alive, she said simply. For the first time in years, I am truly alive. High Commander Vextaroth straightened, his massive form radiating authority. Very well. I hereby authorize a cultural exchange program between the Draconic Consortium and the human species. Princess Zara Theshai Knox will serve as our ambassador, and Jake Morrison, who catalogues space mold, will serve as our instructor in the art of being genuinely annoying. Best job description I've ever had, I said, grinning. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new office, which was approximately 10 times larger than my old lab and had a view of the Kepler-7 system that still took my breath away. The nameplate on my door read Jake Morrison, Director of Interspecies Emotional Wellness, which sounded way more impressive than it actually was. My job, it turned out, was teaching aliens how to be human, not the big stuff like art and philosophy and the meaning of life, but the small stuff. How to complain about the weather, how to argue about what to have for dinner, how to disagree with your friends without it being an international incident. Zara was my first success story. Hence, she'd made a complete recovery and was now officially Earth's ambassador to the Draconic Consortium, though unofficially, she was my co-conspirator in the galaxy's strangest friendship. Jake, she said, entering my office with her usual dramatic flair, I have terrible news. What now? I asked, knocking up from my reports. The Consortium Council has decided to implement mandatory fun activities for all diplomatic personnel. I groaned. Please tell me they're not going to bureaucratize fun. They have created a department of recreational activities, and with proper forms. And of course they have. I leaned back in my chair. Let me guess, you need to file a request to have a good time. In triplicate, she confirmed. And it must be approved by the Minister of Appropriate Leisure. You know what? I'm not even surprised anymore. Your people could bureaucratize breathing if they tried hard enough. And do not give them ideas, she said, settling onto the specially designed couch that could accommodate her dragon form. How are our new students progressing? I glanced at my schedule. Well, the Centaurian delegation is finally learning how to express mild annoyance. They're still too polite. But yesterday one of them actually said that's mildly inconvenient when I spilled coffee on his report. Progress. Baby steps. The vegan trade representatives are doing better. They've mastered the art of complaining about the cafeteria food. Apparently their word for disappointing lunch has 17 syllables. And the Andromedan scientists? They're naturals. Turns out they've been wanting to complain about peer review processes for centuries. They just needed permission. Zara laughed, the sound still as beautiful as the first time I'd heard it. You have created something wonderful here, Jake Morrison, who catalogues space mold. I prefer my new title. Thanks. Director Morrison sounds more official. Very well, Director Morrison, who teaches aliens to be authentically grumpy. There was a knock at my door, and Commander Fink entered. He'd been demoted after the dragon incident, but in typical Fink fashion, he'd found a way to make his new position sound important. Morrison, he said, I need to discuss the proper protocols for emotional expression during interspecies negotiations. Fink, I replied. There are no proper protocols, that's the whole point. But surely there must be some guidelines. No. The guideline is, be yourself, to be honest. If you're annoyed, say you're annoyed. If you're happy, say you're happy. If you think someone's being an idiot, tell them they're being an idiot. Fink looked physically pained. But what if they take offense? Then you apologize and move on. It's called having a relationship. But the documentation. Zara interrupted gently. Perhaps you would benefit from our beginner's guide to casual conversation. Jake has developed a very effective curriculum. Is there a certificate? Fink asked hopefully. Sure, I said. We'll make you a certificate, certified in basic human interaction. Frame it if you want. After Fink left, clutching his enrollment forms, Zara and I sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside the window, ships from a dozen species were coming and going, and I could see the construction of the new Cultural Exchange Center on the horizon. You know, I said, when I was cataloging space mold, I thought I was wasting my time. Turns out I was just learning patience for this job. Cataloging alien fungi and teaching aliens to be human, Zara mused. There are similarities. Yeah, both involve dealing with things that grow in weird places and occasionally try to kill you. She laughed again. Jake Morrison, you have single-handedly prevented 3 wars, established the most successful diplomatic program in galactic history, and somehow convinced the Draconic Consortium to institute Casual Fridays. You are remarkable. I'm just a guy who's really good at complaining, I said. Turns out that's exactly what the galaxy needed. Indeed. Though I still do not understand why you humans invented reality television. Hey, nobody's perfect. We're working on that. Good, she said, settling more comfortably on her couch. Because next week, the Regelian Empire wants to learn about constructive criticism, and I believe they may be even more formal than my people. Bring it on, I said, grinning. I've got plenty of complaints about the universe. You might as well share them with everyone. And that's how Jake Morrison, space mold cataloger turned director of interspecies emotional wellness, accidentally became the most important diplomat in the galaxy. Not by following protocols or maintaining dignity, but by doing what humans do best, treating everyone like a friend and complaining about everything else. It's not the career my mother wanted for me, but I'm pretty sure preventing galactic wars counts as a real job, even if it's not on Earth.